What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal back again. I am OJ Simpson.
Totally not.
I'm just kidding. I didn't kill my girlfriend and a waiter. So I am Steampunk Shredlord, the 18th.
And I'm still just Necrotic Nick, very mild-mannered Necrotic Nick, I guess.
And now that I'm done role-playing, we are here to bring you yet another excellent album review. This time from a very foreign band, Beheaded. The album is GHADAM, I believe. GHADAM. GHADAM or Goddamn.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I did look up the word. It translates to bone in Maltese, and that might be the only one I'm able to pronounce or say on this album, because all of these songs are in Maltese. Anyway, this also comes on the 25th of July on Agonia Records. This band formed in 1991 in Malta. While they did form in 1991, their first album did not drop until 1998. This is their 7th album overall. Now, I've been a fan of this band for a while. I got into them with Ominous Bloodline, which at that point, they were straight up brutal death metal, very much like in line with a lot of Unique Leader bands, which they were on Unique Leader for quite a while. But around the album Beast Incarnate, they took kind of a shift in their style, becoming more like kind of just like straight up death metal, a little bit more atmosphere, a little bit more sinister. Like they kind of like ditched like a lot of the like big, chromatic, chuggy breakdowns and slams and such. Even the vocal approach changed a little bit. And I was kind of curious about this one. The follow-up to Beast Incarnate, Only Death Can Save You, I thought was, pretty decent. Really didn't kind of hit the same mark that Beast Incarnate did. But, this band seemed like they were trying to, kind of forge a new sound, because clearly they were done with the brutal death metal thing. And this is definitely a new sound for them. This is way more atmospheric, way more creepy, way more, just dark and sinister. It's still heavy, it's still brutal, it's still very much death metal, but it's definitely different than a lot of their older stuff.
Yeah, the opening track, Għadam, starts off with some folky strings and some spoken word, and an older Tom Waits bellows you in a foreign tongue of a tale of Satan and debauchery adrift. Now, luckily that doesn't carry on for too long, because then I'd have to write more material to make fun of it. However, immediately it kind of goes into this Morbid Angel meets tech death stomp. It had some heavy tone coming out the gate and good syncopation, and it felt really tight and impressive right out of the gate.
Yeah, and like riff-wise, again, it kind of changed. Like, it's still, of course, heavy, and it's dense, and it's just kind of murky sounding, but there's a lot to the riffs, like a lot of like crawling, weird harmonies, lots of dissonance across this album, and additional atmospheric elements as well. Plus, I think the guitar work is kind of like the standout, at least in terms of like the riff work, because there's a lot going on, like really cool counter harmonies. You don't get a lot of like solos per se, but you get constant like interplay with the guitars, where one's complementing the other or playing something completely different to add to this outright just kind of creepy atmosphere in here.
Yeah, I would say the two styles of guitar on here, when it comes to leads, are the 2 or 3, I think maybe 2 times. 3. I believe 3. You actually get a, what I would consider like a traditional style solo. When you do get them, they are very kind of chaotic, fast, whirling. Melodically, they're not making a lot of sense. It just sounds kind of like a lot of chaos sweeping in and sweeping out. And then you get moments of slowed down, thought out melody, where it's more of a mellow death thing, where the melody is kind of there to stand out and be strong over top the heavy riff, versus, noodling around, so to speak. I enjoyed when they did the more melodic kind of epic parts. Not that there was anything wrong with the leads. However, when they're kind of more from that school of more of a vibe than it is a composition, I tend to lean more towards the melody.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of the solos, they kind of generally fit the moment that they're in. And, Wild and Chaotic is definitely a vibe that's on here, especially in their faster, like more blasty aggro sections, like, the opening track. And, man, I have no idea how to say this one.
Yeah, so let's, I gotta enhance. Enhance. Let's see here. Għadam, Extrach, I Infern, Beneket, Ihabru, I Mute, Ihursa, yes, who can forget that foreign classic Il Khatib, Ix Jayton Ta Mohi, my favorite kind of tuna steaks, and Il Jelly Bla Camar. So that's kind of what we're dealing with when it comes to the titles. So
yeah,
I'm sorry if I slaughtered them. We did our best.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen Maltese actually printed out, or I think actually even heard anyone speak the language, which I kind of thought that they would speak like something close to Greek or Italian.
I thought Maltese was only a type of dog.
No, it's a type of falcon, actually.
The Maltese falcon.
But I'm just going to say track 7, way more aggressive, way more like 90s death metal, like just good, solid, chuggy, mean riffs, a little bit more akin to the stuff that showed up on Beast Incarnate. But a lot of this is about mood, atmosphere, lots of dynamics, like huge dynamics, and there's a lot extra going on in the way of like, you know, atmospheric elements. It's not just the guitars and all the dissonance creating all the atmosphere. You have synths occasionally. You even have clean vocals, which I don't think I've ever heard this band do clean vocals, and they're like very like gothic sounding, like kind of like, you know, like choral chants almost. I mean, like legit anything they say in their language, whether it's growled or like chanted here, it sounds creepy and occultish. Like it sounds like they summoned Cthulhu like 8 times on this album. Track 3, which I have no idea.
Allow me, sir. Beneket Ihabru Imute.
Yes, I'm sure he nailed it on the first try there. Actually, that'd be a second try, but it's a slower, more, I don't know, just kind of sludgy, dingy sounding song. But this is where the clean vocals first show up, and it adds a lot of this haunting atmosphere. And you know, I kept kind of comparing it to their older stuff. And, you know, brutal death metal is not about, like, subtlety or, like, layers of subtext or anything like that. It's in your face, just beating you over the head with riffs. And, like, this whole listening experience, like, this was, like, going from, like, just a flat-out gorehound horror flick to something like, you know, The Exorcist. It was like, oh, there's a plot and acting and... You know, there's suspense being built. It isn't just someone screaming and getting clubbed over the head with a fucking sledgehammer.
The other thing I really appreciated about this album is to touch on the little bit of a different vibe that it brought. It almost had a hip swinging groove, or almost like a waltzy theatrical kind of vibe going on to it with the melodic sections underneath the heavy riffing. It's cool because it adds a little bit of a different flavor to the death metal that kind of dominates most of this album.
And when we say like melodic, like I would say these riffs are catchier than hell, but I mean it's a very particular kind of melody. Like all of them sound just dingy and haunting and ghostly. And there's even a little bit more like vocal dynamic that shows up, especially towards the end, like on the second to last track. Translator,
hold on.
Take this one on.
That would be Jidhak il Laji.
Yep. Once again, he is doing an amazing job here. I mean, he's practically Maltese at this point. You get a cool setup with like synths and whispers and crickets and such, and then it just explodes into these just gnarly fucking riffs. Very fast paced, but throughout the song, you get a lot of these like, again, like creepy, dingy melodies, and it feels like the guitars are kind of like weaving around one another. And vocally, you know, he gets a little bit more like dramatic, like they start layering the vocals. You get like a high and a low. He's got kind of like, you know, like a mid-range register where it's just a good pronounced roar. And honestly, the fact that you can make out what he's saying, like I don't understand what he's saying because it's Maltese, but the fact that you can make out words clearly, I think it adds like, again, just like a creepier sort of vibe to this overall.
Yeah, it has a spoken word intro over the creepy vibe. It's almost like the kids have snuck out and don't wake daddy, and then all of a sudden the death metal alarm clock hits and daddy's awoken. He is pissed and someone is going to get a lashing.
Yeah, this album is like, you know, a little bit different than even I was expecting. Like I knew they weren't going to do the brutal death metal thing anymore. It's still technical, but it's not like tech death technical. Like it's not a lot of like, you know, noodly arpeggios and just like the craziest of time signatures and riff changes. But it is still technical and it's all right, but it's more clever. Like these songs are hooky, but they're not like too flamboyant. Like the transitions aren't too much. Even like the longest song on here, which is track 5. Don't even need to say it. We already said it before. It has a lot going on in it, like big dynamic shifts in the songs. It gets flat out brutal in sections. There's good solid grooves, really good sludgy lurching riffs. they kind of utilize like a giant wheelhouse of different riff styles, but it doesn't feel cluttered. It doesn't feel like they're trying to do too much. Like even when it's like blasting full steam ahead, which drum work in here is pretty damn intense when they're going like, full bore, but there's also a lot of nuance in that as well too. Like, a lot of fun off time rhythms and such, some clever breakdowns. This is definitely like pushing forward in terms of like songwriting. They want to write more lavish, intricate songs. And, I think they do an awesome job in here. And a lot of this, I would still say, is like very comparable to like mid-period Behemoth, Hideous Divinity, Devangelic. Even points on here kind of sound like Nile, and then kind of swirl it up with like Morbid Angel, and well, you kind of get this album.
The last thing that I felt I needed to address here would be the last track, Ermiad. It was a cool composition. It's basically like a folk guitar composition for about a good 3.5 minutes or so. Not really sure what it added to the rest of the song, other than to maybe tie in with how the intro started, a little bit like that. But really, it kind of felt like Sophia Petrillo was going to tell me a story from Sicily 1923. And while it was enjoyable, it may have felt a little weird and out of place to end on that.
Yeah, like the entire time I was listening to it, granted, it's a nice piece.
Yes.
I just kept thinking of Godfather, like, when they're hiding him out in Sicily, and they blow up his wife and he comes back.
You're my brother, and I love you. But don't you ever question the family again.
It's totally that vibe, 100%. Like, we had a whole story arc going at the table while we were listening to it. It was like, dude, like, this feels like, like good setup, like a sweeping shot of the town and all that. And
Little Johnny Gabagool shows up to the local playground. Big Jimmy Meatballs shows up and says, hey, you look like a good kid. You want a job? You know what I'm saying? Big Jimmy Meatballs, he's a businessman with many friends, but I digress.
A lot of, loose associations with insidious types.
Whoa.
I know. That's what the people say,
Waste management executives.
Burden of proof is always in the prosecution. That's what my lawyer says.
Whoa, what murder?
But, I mean, overall, I thought this was pretty enjoyable. And in terms of, like, any negatives on here, honestly, like, I'd be kind of hard-pressed to find it. Like, I think this change in direction, I don't know, like, it suits them. The songs are there. The riffs are there. The song construction, I think, is really awesome. It does kind of take, like, a weird tonal shift towards the end. Like, track 7, however you say that, it does feel a little far removed from, like, the rest of the album with all its, like, twisting, distant atmosphere and such. Like, that sounds like a song that they probably wrote in, like, 1992, because it has, like, fierce 90s death metal vibes, specifically, like, very thrashy U.S. death metal. Like, I got a lot of, like, Malevolent Creation and Deicide on it. It's a damn good song, but it feels like, I don't know, like it doesn't quite fit the theme of the album a bit.
Yeah, that song and the last track definitely kind of stick out like a sore thumb as far as comparing it to the rest of the material. While it is good material, I'm not sure if it's maybe something that could have been woven in, perhaps, to give it more of a rest of the album feel or not.
Yeah, it feels like a Maltese tribute to 90s Roadrunner albums.
Caw-caw!
That's the Maltese Falcon, in case
you were wondering. I don't really have too many gripes about this. This was actually a very enjoyable listen. The only thing that I would critique this album on was perhaps the fast moments of the solo, where if the guitar player maybe took a little more time to compose something, even if it was fast or chaotic, I felt like maybe could have added and elevated those sections just a little bit more. But that's really it, and that's nitpicking. So that's about how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guitar work in terms of like adding melody or dynamic, it was done in the riff work. When they were like complementing the riffs with like counter harmonies and such, like that's where it stood out. The leads, I mean, kind of felt a little bit buried in the mix at times. Like overall, I like the mix. It's a little bit dingy and dirty sounding. Apparently their drummer David Balia, who also plays in Anthropophagus and Vomit the Soul, did the production. And I mean, honestly, it sounds good. I just feel like, the leads probably could have come up, but at the same time, like the leads kind of felt like nuggets of Trey Ozagoth, kind of solos. Like, all right, this was like
definitely
one big shreddy dive bomb fest, and then we're kind of back down to the riffs and such. But yeah, overall, I dug this. This was pretty sick, and honestly, I'm going to give it 4 stars. Solid riffs. I kind of like this shift in the band sound. There's a lot of cool, like, atmospheric elements. It's got, like, textures and it's dark and sinister, but it still packs an absolutely brutal punch. I mean, I can't fault them for finally doing an album entirely in their home language, but man, it made it help trying to like pick tracks in here that I like. Like, oh, how do I even say that? But musically, yeah, this is absolutely killer. I like this direction of the band, and kind of curious what they do next, because this is definitely a step in a kind of totally different direction for them. But yeah, if you're a big fan again of like again mid-period Behemoth, definitely Morbid Angel. There's lots of Morbid Angel in here. Devangelic, Hideous Divinity, stuff like that. Check this album out. Pretty damn good.
I got to agree with Nick. I got to give this a 4 out of 5 as well. I thought it was an enjoyable listen for sure. Take away the last track and take away maybe the track that didn't necessarily fit the vibe, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. From the moment we started till the end of this album, it didn't feel like a chore. It was properly paced. I thought the music was interesting from start to finish. While it definitely danced on the more Morbid Angel bass or structure to the house, I really dug the style of the guitars and how they would really embrace the whole bendy, kind of evilly, bendy is the best word to describe those Trey riffs. It's just how they can kind of bend into these evil notes. And it just gives it this really cool heft, but it also gives it a little groove as well. And then you inject some of the more tech death approaches and little tricks of that trade, so to speak. And I thought they came up with a really enjoyable album. My only gripe was just, once again, nitpicking lead guitar shit, which I feel is like so minute in the sense of it all. This is definitely something I would listen to again. 4 out of 5. I'm going to say it's a GHADAM. Good album.
Well played.
Thank you, sir.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents. And our Lone Perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we haven't done for a while, but we will get back to it. Again, our poor, practically enslaved brother John is, I think on his 6th week of overtime and plumb exhausted. But once he gets off that, we're going to figure out a time to come out and hang out and talk about the usual dumb shit that we talk about in those streams.
I tried to fucking force it, but Nick insists that John should be able to sleep and, like bathe and stuff. So we do apologize, but Nick swears that John needs to get sleep and everything. And so it is what it is,
I mean, we contemplated cloning John, but we don't know anything about cloning. And I don't know what sort of genetic material we have from him at the house. It's probably nothing good, like probably some stray hairs or, a skid mark he left on a fucking chair trying to fart too hard.
Yeah, nothing we really feel confident on. And as much as we tease John, we do love John, so we don't want to create a clone problem that we have to deal with.
Anyway, membership's the main way to support the channel, and there's a join button down there for you to smash if you want to join up and hang out with us.
And last but certainly not least, thank you guys, the fans. Thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day, watching our content, commenting on our content, telling your friends. Anything that you do that interacts with us or provides interaction with this community, we are greatly, greatly appreciative of. It all started with a lot of boredom and a lot of downtime in COVID, and it has transformed into an awesome community that we couldn't have dreamed of when we started. So to each and every one of you, again, thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.